A strong, stable, and predictable political and macroeconomic framework is the bedrock of economic and socioeconomic transformation. In all countries that we have surveyed, it is very clear that the key to successful economic transformation was implementation of prudent fiscal and monetary policies as they affect the country's competitiveness and making the correct adjustments. And all this was made possible by the existence of a strong and stable political regimes with the traits of military regimes in some of the countries. Distinguished participants, message number 7, a complete change of the mindset in the way of doing things. It was also very clear that successful socioeconomic transformation has to go hand in hand with a profound change in social norms, work ethos, and professional etiquette. Among them was zero tolerance to corruption, throwing away the dependency mindset in the spirit of the famous Chinese saying that give me a fishing net instead of fish, a high propensity to save rather than consume, work discipline as exemplified by the motto of the Tianjin Municipal Development and Reform Commission, which says, work hard every day, day and night, for 5 + 2 days a week, every month, year by year, with no pay and no demonstration and no complaints. It's also important to have elaborate incentives, including key performance indicators, rewards, and sanctions. The key takeaway message here is that collectively, as a nation, we in Tanzania need to launch a fierce attack on corrupt practices, dependency syndrome, laxity and inefficiency, carelessness on public property and infrastructure, habit of just complaining, which the President clearly pointed out. The habit of just complaining is instead of being part of the solution, the phobia of investors and investments, tax evasion and avoidance, and the surging spending, lavish spending on kitchen, bag parties, wedding, and so on. And as well as what has emerged now as an attitude of getting rich quickly by any means, even when it is evil. We need to deal with this. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, message number 8, and the last message. There is no one size which fits all. Country specificity, which exploits its rich history, niches, and catching emerging opportunities, is key to shaping socioeconomic transformation. While studies assert a few similar characteristics that cut across as factors which contributed to countries' success in transforming their economies, each country had a vision, it had a strategy to pursue transformation. South Korea was able to sustain rapid development, but the core was government-led skills development, coordinated with rapid technological change and equitable income distribution. In the case of China's transformation, here focus was on the role of the private sector in achieving unprecedented high levels of growth, which in turn facilitated changes in government economic policy that are progressively given rein to market forces. Ladies and gentlemen, I want now to end my address by doing some advanced canvassing for the support, for your support on socioeconomic transformation of Tanzania, envisaged under the forthcoming long-term perspective plan 2011 to 2025. As you will recall, In June of last year, the Parliament approved the first 5-year development plan as a roadmap to implement Tanzania's Development Vision 2025 more systematically. Most of you are aware that the theme of that plan is to unleash Tanzania's latent growth potentials. And the plan is the first one in a series of 3 successive and interdependent 5-year plans knitted together by the long-term perspective plan. And the aim is to make a quantum leap for Tanzania to graduate to middle-income country by 2025 in line with the vision goal to transform Tanzania into a diversified and semi-industrialized economy with a substantial industrial sector comparable to a typical middle-income country. In 2001, the Planning Commission did an analysis in order to better understand what it would take for Tanzania to become a middle-income country by 2025. And the study generated a gross national income per capita that would have to be achieved by 2025 in order to reach the lower middle-income country threshold, which is US dollars 2,700. What turned out is that for the threshold to be realized, an average annual GNI growth rate of 8% per annum in the next 15 years will have to be sustained. Ladies and gentlemen, again, the analysis indicated that on the basis of the sectoral shares of GDP, which is displayed by typical middle-income countries, and setting these then as sectoral share as the target for 2025, we were able to discern sectoral shares and employment in agriculture implied for 2015 and 2020 as targets. And from this study, the share of agriculture in GDP will have to decline from 27.8% in year 2000 to 25.4% in 2015, and further to 23% in 2020 and 20.7% by 2025. Employment in agriculture as a percentage of total employment will have to decline from 74.6% in 2010 to 61.2% in 2015, 50.2% in 2020, and 41.2% by 2025. The share of manufacturing in GDP will have to rise from 9.8% in 2010 to 12% in 2015, 14.6% by 2020, and 17.8% by 2025. Services as a share of GDP will have to change from 47.8% in 2010 to 48.1% in 2015, and 48.3% in 2020, and finally reaching 48.6% by 2025. Now, apart from sustaining high rates of growth above 8% in order to reach middle-income status, the country will also have to transform from a mainly agricultural economy to a semi-industrialized one. And this transformation will happen first by increased productivity in agriculture, and will increase production to generate excess labor supply, both fueling agro-processing and leading to a sharp increase in manufacturing sector. There will also be improvement in the value addition chain, which will create employment and growth in the industrial sector. Now, taking all this into account, agriculture growth rate will have to increase from the current average of 4.4% for the period 2000 to 2010 to reach 6% annual average through to 2025. Similarly, the growth of manufacturing will need to increase from the current average of 8.2% to 13% through 2025. The growth of services will need to increase from the current 7.5% to 8% through to 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, the picture I have just painted of structural shifts required of Tanzania to graduate to middle-income country status are obviously a tall order and cannot be attained through business as usual attitude. It will need strong transformational leadership, as I described it. It will need ruthless focus on prioritization of programs and projects. It will require a radical productivity improvement in agriculture, aggressive industrialization drive, making land readily available for large-scale investment in both industry and agriculture, vigorous development role of the state or smart government, steadfast on macroeconomic and political stability, strict discipline of implementation, mindset change, and taking full advantage of the country's niches and catching emerging opportunities promptly. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies and distinguished participants, I thank you for your kind attention.
The plan economy was no longer good.